Hi there everyone and welcome back to Planet Property. It's been a while and I feel like I start every single video saying that, and that is also completely at odds with what I'm about to tell you, which is I have quite a few bits of actually super exciting life news and updates and things like that. So the first one is, you may see I'm a little bit brown. I don't know if it's picking it up in the camera. My legs are very brown. They're actually peeling quite a bit because I've just spent the last 3 weeks in Asia. I've been in Thailand and Cambodia, which was incredible. Such a wonderful experience. Something I've kind of been planning since maybe like February 2020, but I don't need to explain why it didn't happen back then. Yeah, it's just so amazing. So especially in Cambodia, actually, I was completely off grid. I couldn't even use my phone. It was really lovely. It was so nice. Tom and I went together. It was a big celebration. We've planned this trip for ages. Like I say, originally I was going to go on my own back in 2020, and then when the world all sort of closed down and everything all went to pot, we sort of delayed the trip, and then eventually in 2021 we decided that we were going to do the trip together as a celebration for the end of medical school. And I think I just wanted to go, because obviously in 2021 I was doing my RICS then, and then obviously I failed and I did it again this time, so it then ultimately became a celebration trip for both of us, a celebration for him for qualifying as a doctor and for me for qualifying as a Chartered Surveyor and passing the APC. So it all kind of just aligned perfectly, and it was such a wonderful, beautiful celebration trip. Yeah, we were away for 19 days. So, and then obviously there was travel time involved with both of that. So yeah, it was amazing. We had 10 days in Cambodia, and then we had just over a week in Thailand. Well, we had a couple of days in Bangkok before we went to Cambodia, and then we came back and we had just over a week in Thailand before we flew home. And it was just wonderful, so amazing. And like I say, it felt really special and like we'd really earned it. So that's where I've been for the last few weeks. That's why I'm a bit brown. I probably would have been browner if I'd stayed in the UK, to be honest. It is hot. It's very, very hot out. It's gonna reach 40 degrees in London today, the day you're watching it. Tomorrow, for me, because I'm filming it on Sunday, tomorrow it's supposed to reach 40 degrees in London, which is, it's warm. Brighton Beach is packed full of Londoners who've come down to escape the heat. So yeah, that's where I've been. But there are other updates outside of my holidays and travel and stuff. Back in May, I left my job. I've not been working since May, which, like I say, is at odds with why I'm not uploading very regularly. You'd think that I would have a lot of time to upload now. And there's a couple of reasons why I left my job. So I was working at Freets. I've talked about this before. Freets are a law firm. They have an in-house planning consultancy team. It's split over 2 offices. Half the team are in the Nottingham office, half the team are in the London office. I was based in London. And I was there for just over 9 months. And yeah, there's a couple of reasons behind me leaving. The job wasn't quite what I wanted and what I expected, and I wasn't gelling right with it, and I was quite miserable for a lot of the time I was there. And I remember sort of saying to my therapist after I actually left my job, after the day I quit, or like the session I saw her after I quit, and she said, I haven't seen you this relaxed since you started that job. So it definitely was not aligning with me, not sort of working and everything else. The other reason I left the job is a really exciting one, and I'm moving to York in a few days actually, which is ridiculous. But yeah, this has been on the cards for quite a while now, hence why I left my job back in May. So there's a few factors behind this. The driving factor is that when you qualify as a junior doctor, as my partner just has, you finish medical school, you have to do what are called your foundation year training years, which is colloquially known, it's a hard word to say, as your junior doctor years. And you do 2 of these, it's called F1 and F2. And you get somewhat of a say in where you go, but it's allocated to you based on your performance in your final exams, your performance across medical school in total, whether you have any previous degrees, whether you have any publications under your name. There's a lot that goes into making up your score, and then you're ranked against every single other medical school graduate in the country as to where you get on your preference list. And this year was the most competitive year there has ever been. The Tom score that he got for his overall score would usually have been a really decent score that would get you into your first choice, unless your first choice is London, because London is, of course, ridiculously competitive. And we knew from the off that with his previous year's exam results, London was probably not going to be on the cards. So we've known for a little while now we're actually going to be leaving the southeast. We just weren't sure where we were going. So we were looking at going to Manchester. I love Manchester. I think it's an amazing city. It's quite close to home for me, which is really reassuring because, you know, my family's had quite a lot of health problems over the last few years. I've spent my life driving up and down the M6. It would be nice to be closer to home. I have a lot of friends in Manchester. My best friend from university lives there. And again, driving up and down to see her, it's, you know, we live in a small country, but still, my poor car can only take so much. So I was really excited about the prospect of Manchester, and we knew that there was a really, really good chance that Tom would get it unless he absolutely stuffed up his final exams. We were very confident we would get Manchester. And this kind of worked with Freeths because they have a Manchester office, but there's no planning team in there. But Nottingham's not a million miles away. That there was a way to work it with the Manchester option. And when allocations came out back in, was it March or April? I can't remember. Tom found out he actually got Teesside in the northeast of the country because the competition this year has been so fierce. There are actually 800 doctors who have just graduated from medical school who don't have jobs because there are that few, well, no, there aren't even that few positions, there are just that many more graduates, and therefore the competition for places is so much fiercer. It's absolutely insane. So to be honest, getting the northeast, that was his 3rd choice. So in the grand scheme of things, he did really well. He's got friends who got 8th, 9th choice or something like that, and have ended up in the middle of nowhere, Scotland. So his job is actually in Stockton-on-Tees, which is sort of Middlesbrough kind of area. It's a bit south of Newcastle. Anyone who's not in the UK, not from the UK, or even people from the south probably don't understand the geography. But sort of in the very northeast of England, before you hit the border in Scotland, you've got a city called Newcastle, and then sort of you go a little bit further down the coast, you've got another city called Sunderland, and that's all sort of, Newcastle and Sunderland are very close to each other. It's one big urban area. And then you go a bit further down the coast and you get to an area called Teesside, where there's a city called Middlesbrough, and there's a town called Hartlepool, and then there's another town called Stockton, and this is all a separate area quite away from Newcastle. So Newcastle's up here, Middlesbrough and Stockton and Hartlepool are down here. So when he got that, we were sort of, I mean, we were delighted because the jobs he's got is actually, they're amazing, and he's going to have the best 2 years, and we've heard nothing but good things about Stockton Hospital. But it did kind of raise the question of, okay, where are we going to live? And what am I going to do for work? Because unsurprisingly, there's not a huge amount of planning consultancy roles in Stockton-on-Tees. So we thought about it a lot. Do we go our separate ways for a couple of years? He live in Stockton, I stay in London, or I move to Manchester on my own, so at least we're in the north of the country together. do we live in Newcastle and he commute down because there are jobs in Newcastle, but I certainly would have had to have left my job in Freeths because Freeths don't have an office in Newcastle. Or do we live in Leeds, but the commute for him from Leeds was just too far. So then we settled on York, which is really exciting because York is such a beautiful city. It's stunning. It's where Diagon Alley from Harry Potter is based on. It's got this old cathedral, it's on the river, it's just... In saying that, I've only been there twice in my life, and once was when I was looking for houses. So I agreed to move to this place when I'd only ever been there once as a child. But no one ever says anything bad about York. Everyone we've told we're moving to York, they go, oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. You're going to have the best time there. So I'm really, really excited. But again, that raised the question of, okay, so what am I going to do? So York is actually very close to Leeds. It's only about 20 minutes away, and Leeds is a huge city. It's sort of known as the Northern Powerhouse, or sort of the Leeds-Manchester corridor is. There's a lot of finance in Leeds. It's actually the second biggest financial district outside of London in the UK. Loads of development work going on. There are huge opportunities and scope for work for me, for projects. And Freeths do have an office in Leeds. They also have an office in Sheffield, which isn't a million miles away. So when I posed this to my manager and I said, I'm moving to York, I'm sure you can understand, I'm going with my partner. I was going to say, I'm not staying in London on my own for this job. But I obviously didn't say that to him, but I think we kind of understood each other. And I said, okay, so what are the options? Do you think I could work in the Leeds office or the Nottingham office or something? Or maybe come down to London once a week? And we hashed it all out, and between us, we sort of realised that there wasn't a way to make it work. And that was the conversation I had back in early May. And yeah, we kind of just parted ways there. Which, Freeths have a lovely policy, especially because they knew I would be going to a competitor as well. So they just said, you know what, they don't feel like you need to work your notice period, especially because, obviously, early May, I was revising for my APC. So very generously, I was able to stop working then, but I was still being paid, which was the dream. And I then had full time to commit to revising for the APC, which I think probably did contribute to why I did eventually pass. But yeah, so I've left Freeths and I have a new job to go to in Leeds, which I am so excited about actually. This is sort of, it's the dream company. It's a company it's a consultancy I've known of for a very, very long time. I knew they had a London office, and their London office is sort of known as one of the best around, particularly in terms of development viability, which obviously as a newly qualified development surveyor is something that's really exciting to me. But I didn't realise they had a Leeds office, and they are expanding their Leeds office, which is really exciting. So the company I'm going to is Quad. I don't know, I'm probably talking in such niche terms. Almost no one watching this is going to understand what I'm saying, but I'm so excited. The company are fantastic. I've got a female boss for the first time in my life, which I'm really excited about. She is a Yorkshire girl through and through, and she won the RTPI Young Planner of the Year award a few years ago. It's a really nice young team, because again, that's the risk when you go out of London with planning consultancies, is that the regional offices tend to be people who've moved out, or sort of, maybe they stayed, they didn't go to London or the big city or whatever, but they've moved out to these sort of more regional areas to settle down, to have their family and their children, and there's a real risk that there's not the kind of atmosphere and buzz about the office, because everyone has to leave at 3:30 to go and pick up the kids. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that. People who have a family, it's wonderful that they have the flexibility to go and pick up the children and stuff, but sort of as a young person coming into the team, moving to a completely new part of the country, I wanted to have the opportunity to make friends with people and sort of maybe have a few people my age who have similar interests to me. And Quad offers that. It's a young office. They're all really fit and active, you know, half of them were running the Leeds half marathon a few weeks ago, and obviously as someone who's quite into my running, it's really exciting for me. So yeah, I'm so excited. When I was up in York a few weeks ago house hunting, they actually sent me a message, well, my boss sent me a message and said, oh, when are you about? Would you like to go for lunch? And I said, oh, actually, I'm going to be up in the north on these dates. Shall we go out? So I went for lunch with my new team. So I got to meet everyone, because obviously during interview, I only met the senior partners. So yeah, it's just, everything is so exciting. The move was ultimately driven by the fact that Tom has just been sent to Teesside, but it all just feels like it's fitted into place. Like I said, I was not happy at Freeth, things were not gelling. It wasn't working, and this new job opportunity is so exciting for me, and I can't wait. It's gonna be wonderful. But what are you doing between now and starting that new job, may I ask, Evelyn? So the Asia trip has been booked in since March, April, before I left Freeth. So I'd requested that as annual leave. I did actually have to get a special request for it because it was over 2 weeks. I had to take 2.5 weeks off, and looking back now, I can't believe I thought this was okay. So we landed on a Monday morning at Gatwick. We landed at 6:30 a.m. and I would have had to have gone to work that day. I would have worked from home, but even so, I would have had to have gone to work that day. And knowing how I felt on that Monday when I got home, having had a terrible night's sleep, obviously on the plane on the way over. So yeah, I would have had to have gone into work on that day, which was the Monday. And then on the Wednesday, so 2 days later, was Tom's graduation. And again, I had to put a special request in to have the day off for that. But because I just had 2.5 weeks off, they only let me have a few hours in the afternoon for the actual graduation ceremony. So I would have been working, literally run out the door, take some pictures of him in his gown and mortarboard, and then come back and work. So it just was absolutely insane. I can't believe I thought that was going to be okay. But again, what else are you doing with your time now, Evelyn? So obviously since I've been back, I only got back a few days ago. We had graduation, so Tom's family all came over to celebrate that. And then we drove up to York to pick up the keys for our new house and meet our landlord, measure up for furniture and things like that. And now back in the southeast, because didn't want to be travelling during this extreme heat. And we are moving next week. We are moving the majority of our furniture up to the new house next week, but we're actually going to sort of be back. It's a very long, complicated story. Basically, throughout the month of July, I've been paying for 2 houses. Half of the month I wasn't even in the country or on the right continent and was not living in the houses. So it's very expensive, and especially because I'm now no longer being paid by Freeths. I'm now just taking time off, and Tom is not working. So we had 2 houses and we're on holiday in Thailand whilst neither of us are being paid. But, you know, I don't care really. This is what savings are for. I feel really blessed to have been able to have had this time off. Like I say, the initial time off was spent revising for the APC, which was wonderful because I had all the time to give to it. It meant it didn't take over my life. I would get up, go to the gym, come home, do a few hours of revision, and then get on with some other jobs, and then maybe do a couple more hours. And it was, I say, the relaxed approach to it. I talked about it in my video where I talked about passing the APC. I think my relaxed approach to the whole thing is ultimately what made me pass, and I'm so grateful that I was able to take that time to really just focus on making sure I was in the best place I could be, making sure I was the best version of myself, but also sort of really giving the time to think, what do I actually need to revise? Let's not go over the Health and Safety at Work Act because the chances of that coming up are so slim. Let's really, really focus deep down on what we need to go through. So that was the first few weeks, and then where did we get to then? So I passed at the end of May. Beginning of June was house hunting, so was constantly on the phone to estate agents. Went up to York for 3 days to go and look at houses, and that's where I met the Leeds team, the quad guys from Leeds for lunch. What else was it? I think June was my real time off, but also because I had Project House Move on the mind, it didn't feel boring. At no point during this time off have I sort of spent a day lying on the sofa watching Loose Women and Come Dine With Me. I've been able to sort of apply my whole self and my whole brain power to projects that normally you'd only be able to give half of yourself to, because so much of it is drained by work. And you know, so of course work's important and you want to apply yourself and do well, but also I think it's to the detriment of a lot of other things. I don't think I would have been able to have found, I certainly wouldn't have been able to find the house, because I wouldn't have been able to go up and down to York all the time for the viewings. And I've negotiated a really good contract with our new landlord, and I was able to have my friends round to stay, because obviously everyone is really sad that we're leaving Brighton. I'm devastated to be leaving Brighton. I love living here, but you know, we can't live here forever. So it was really nice to be able to have my friends round and sort of do a last celebration, and they all came down from Stoke and we went for lovely long swims in the sea and just sort of lay on the beach and enjoy Brighton for what it is. And what else have I been up to? Then it was just preparing to go on holiday, because I went away in mid-June. Like I say, I was away for the best part of 3 weeks. So I've been keeping busy, and now I'm back and we've got the move next week. And then, like I say, it's really complicated. My calendar is ridiculous. I can't even imagine trying to squeeze a full-time job in at the moment. But we're up and down for the next few weeks, because we've got events in the southeast, we've got things to do in the north. Tom starts his new job at the end of July. I don't start my job until August, because at the beginning of August I'm off to the south of France for a week with my mum, which I'm really excited about. So these are holidays that I booked after leaving Freights. And I thought, no, do you know what? I'm going to take a really good long period of time off. I will be off for 4 months by the time I go back to work, because I've never taken a long break before. I had one summer at university that I didn't work, where I went to New Zealand for a month, and the summer after I graduated, where I didn't have a job to go to. But to be honest, that was just so stressful, because I didn't have any money coming in, I didn't have any money behind me, and everything just felt like such a massive failure because I had to go back to Stoke. But I've talked about that in a previous video. This is the first time I'm taking time off, and it feels relaxed, and I feel genuinely able to sort of apply myself to things and work on the best version of myself. I mean, I've mentioned previously I'm running a marathon in October, so I'm really able to give my all to marathon training, which is really exciting because it's consuming. Marathon training is really time consuming. So I've been doing that. Yeah, Mum and I are off to the south of France for a week, which will be really, really lovely. My mum's not been abroad other than to Ireland since 2017. So I said, do you know what, Mum, I'm going to treat you. I'm booking a gîte in the south of France. You just pay for your Eurostar ticket and we'll go. So we're getting the train to Paris, day in Paris, and then down to the south for 5 days, and then back to Paris and back home. So it'll be really nice. Mum and I love France. My mum lived in France for 2 years. She speaks fluent French. She, yeah, my very basic conversational, can I have a glass of wine in a bar, she will wipe the floor with me on the French speaking, so that'll be really nice. And then I get back from France and I have a few days back up in the York house, and then I'm off to Greece for a week on my own, which I'm so excited about. So like I say, France and Greece are holidays I've booked since leaving Freights, and this is a holiday I've wanted to do for 5 years since I heard of this company called Med Sailors, and they are a skippered boat tour company in Europe. I'm really looking forward to that, and then when I get back from Greece is when I go back to work and back to reality. So this video has gotten exceptionally long. I was just meant to do a few minutes update on where I've been, but yes, so let's go in chronological time order. Left my job at Freights at the beginning of May, passed the APC at the end of May, went up to York to find a house to live in beginning of June, middle of June flew to Thailand, have spent the last 3 weeks in Thailand and Cambodia, got back to the UK beginning mid-July. I'm in the process of moving up to York when this crazy heat dies down, and then when I have settled into York after ferrying back and forth between Brighton and York over the last 2 weeks of July, at the beginning of August I go to the south of France with my mum, and then when I get back from France I go to Greece on my own, and then it's time to go back to work. And I am genuinely actually looking forward to going back to work whenever I talk to people about planning. Or the other day I was actually reading my friend's RTPI APC submission, and it kind of, you know, it just sparks your interest, doesn't it? You go, yeah, I do still know what I'm talking about. This is actually really exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and like I say, they seem like the loveliest people at Quad, so it's exciting new adventures. But unless I can organise myself to film another video before we actually pack up the house, this is probably going to be the last time you see me in this setting. I will still be on this lovely IKEA daybed with all of my cushions, but I will have a different creamy beige wall, generic rental painted wall colour behind me, and there probably won't be any seagulls interrupting. So yeah, that's it. I'm so excited. You can probably tell, I'm just really happy. So I'm going to leave it there because I've rambled on for way too long already, and I don't mean to take up more of your day than is necessary. We're all busy people. But as always, feel free to send me a message on Instagram or drop me a comment. They honestly have been making my day. Oh, and if that's why if anyone who's left me a comment or sent me a message in the last week or two, it's because I was literally off grid in Cambodia, and I'm trying to get back to people now. So I'm trying really hard not to be rude. But yeah, send me a message. I love hearing from you all. And I will see you next time, probably in Yorkshire, which is so exciting. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.